Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about one of the most important battles you'll ever fight in your life, the battle against the enemies of the mind. These enemies are subtle, persistent, and they have the power to limit your potential if you let them. But once you recognize them, once you understand how they operate, you can guard against them and, more importantly, defeat them. You see, most people think the real struggle is outside of the competition, the market, the economy. But let me tell you, the real battle is right here in your mind. The mind is a powerful tool, but like any tool, it can work for you or against you. And when it works against you, it's because of these enemies I'm about to outline. The first enemy of the mind is doubt. Doubt says you can, you won't, you're not good enough. It's that little voice that creeps in when you're about to take a big step forward. Now, everyone has doubts. There's no escaping that. But the key difference between successful people and those who never make it is this: successful people feel the doubt, but they don't let it stop them. The antidote to doubt: action. You must take action even if you're unsure. Because every step forward, no matter how small, weakens doubt. And here's the secret: as you act, confidence grows. You can't wait for confidence to start. You have to act your way into it. Next, we have fear. Fear is doubt's big brother. While doubt whispers, fear screams. Fear tells you that if you fail, it will be the end. What if you lose? What if they laugh at you? What if it all falls apart? It's paralyzing, isn't it? But here's the truth about fear: most of it never happens. Fear is a product of the imagination, a story we tell ourselves about a future that hasn't even occurred yet. How do you defeat fear? You face it, you take it head on. Courage doesn't mean the absence of fear, it means acting despite it. When you face your fears, they shrink. You realize they were never as big as you thought. Indecision is a subtle enemy because it looks harmless at first. You say to yourself, I'll decide tomorrow, or I'll wait until I have more information. But here's the thing: every day that you delay, you lose momentum. And over time, indecision becomes a habit that kills opportunities. You've got to learn the art of decision making. Successful people make decisions quickly and change them slowly. They gather information, weigh their options, and then they act. Even if it's not the perfect decision, it's better than no decision at all. Because you can always course correct later, but you can't steer a parked car. Worry is another enemy that can drain your energy, your focus, and your productivity. Worry is nothing more than paying interest on problems that may never come to pass. When you worry, you're living in the future, but you're missing the present, the only moment where you have any real control. How do you overcome worry? Focus on what you can control and let go of what you can't. If there's something you can do to improve your situation, do it. If not, worrying will make it better. Instead, put your energy into productive action. Worrying about tomorrow won't change it, but working hard today might. Perhaps the most dangerous enemy of the mind is negative thinking. Negative thinking is a virus, and if you're not careful, it can spread quickly. It distorts your perception, making everything seem worse than it really is. It's impossible. Why even try this kind of thinking? Is poison to progress. The best way to defeat negative thinking is to be vigilant about what you allow into your mind. You've got to guard the gates of your mind like a fortress. Surround yourself with positivity, positive people, positive ideas, and positive habits. When negativity tries to sneak in, replace it with something constructive. Train your mind to look for opportunities instead of problems, to see solutions instead of barriers. The enemies of the mind are real, but they don't have to control you. You can defeat them, but it starts with awareness. Recognize when doubt, fear, indecision, worry, or negativity are trying to invade your thoughts. And then take action. Replace those thoughts with confidence, courage, decision, focus, and positivity. Because at the end of the day, the most powerful weapon you have is your mind. Master it, and there's no limit to what you can achieve. Let these enemies know they have no place here. They don't get to decide your future. You do. Doubt is one of the most insidious forces that can hold us back from achieving our full potential. It sneaks into our minds quietly, almost without us realizing it, and begins to whisper words of uncertainty, questioning our abilities, our dreams, and our worth. Doubt doesn't come crashing in like a storm. It comes as a slow, persistent drizzle that over time erodes confidence and belief. And if we're not careful, it can become a barrier so strong that we no longer see the possibilities ahead, only the limitations that doubt convinces us are there. Doubt has an uncanny ability to disguise itself as reason. It makes its arguments seem logical, rational, and even protective. It might say, you've never done this before, so what makes you think you can do it now? Or what if you fail? What will people think? These questions seem harmless, but their effect can be devastating. The more we entertain these thoughts, the more we begin to believe them. We start to second guess ourselves, to hesitate in making decisions, and to shrink from opportunities. What doubt is really doing is planting seeds of fear of failure, fear of judgment, and fear of the unknown. And once fear takes root, it becomes even harder to move forward. Doubt is often born from our past experiences. Perhaps we tried something before and it didn't work out the way we had hoped. Maybe we faced rejection or criticism. These moments stay with us, and doubt draws from them like fuel to keep itself alive. It reminds us of every misstep, every mistake, every time we fell short, as if to say, see, you tried and it didn't work. Why bother trying again? But what doubt fails to recognize is that failure is not the end of the road. It's a necessary part of the journey. Every successful person has faced failure at some point. In fact, they've probably faced more failure than most because they've taken more risks. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't the absence of failure or doubt, it's the ability to push through it. Doubt also thrives in the unknown. When we step into uncharted territory, when we try something new or aim for a goal that's outside our comfort zone, doubt seizes the opportunity to fill the gaps with uncertainty. It preys on the fact that we don't know the outcome, that we can't guarantee success, and it uses this ambiguity to make us question whether it's worth the risk. The irony, of course, is that nothing in life is guaranteed. Even staying within the boundaries of what we know doesn't protect us from failure or disappointment. But doubt tricks us into believing that playing it safe is somehow the better option. It makes the familiar seem more comfortable, more secure, even if it's not where we want to be. One of the most damaging aspects of doubt is that it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more we allow doubt to dictate our actions, the more likely we are to hold back, to hesitate, and to avoid taking the very steps that could lead to success. We don't give ourselves fully to the task at hand because a part of us is already convinced that we can't do it. And when we don't give our best effort, the results often fall short of what we're capable of achieving. Then doubt says, I told you so, reinforcing its grip on our minds. It becomes a vicious cycle, one where doubt breeds hesitation. Hesitation leads to less than optimal outcomes. Then those outcomes feed even more doubt. But doubt doesn't always come from within. Sometimes it's a reflection of the doubts and limitations that others project onto us. Well-meaning friends, family, or colleagues may question our decisions or express concern about our choices. They may say things like, are you sure that's a good idea? Or that seems risky. While they may have good intentions, their doubts can easily become our own if we're not careful. We start to internalize their concerns, to second-guess ourselves based on what others think, and before we know it, their doubts become the reasons we hold ourselves back. It's important to remember that while others may offer advice, we are the ones who ultimately know our own abilities, our own passions, and our own goals. Doubt can easily be passed from one person to another, but it's up to us whether we accept it or not. One of the greatest challenges with doubt is that it often masquerades as humility. We tell ourselves that we're just being realistic, that we're not setting ourselves up for disappointment, or that we're staying grounded. But there's a difference between humility and self-limitation. Humility is about recognizing that we don't know everything, that we still have room to grow and improve. Doubt, on the other hand, tells us that we're not capable, that we'll never be enough, and that we shouldn't even try. It's a fine line, but an important one. True humility doesn't stop us from pursuing our goals. It simply keeps us open to learning along the way. Doubt also has a way of magnifying the voices of our critics while silencing the voices of support. We could receive 100 compliments, but if one person expresses doubt or criticism, that's the voice we tend to remember. Doubt feeds off negativity, off the idea that someone else's opinion somehow holds more weight than our own belief in our own belief in ourselves. We start to question whether the praise we've received was genuine, whether the success we've achieved was just luck, and whether the support we have is fleeting. In doing so, we diminish our own accomplishments and give more power to those who doubt us than they deserve. This is how doubt works. It takes the smallest seed of uncertainty and nurtures it until it grows into something that overshadows everything else. It's also important to surround ourselves with people who believe in us, who lift us up, and remind us of our potential when doubt starts to creep in. While doubt may never completely go away, having a support system that encourages us can make all the difference. They can help us see the progress we're making, even when doubt clouds our vision, and they can remind us of our strengths when we're focused on our weaknesses. It's easy to get lost in our own heads, but having voices of support can drown out the noise of doubt. Ultimately, doubt is not a reflection of our true abilities or our potential. It's a product of our experiences, our fears, and our uncertainties, but we don't have to let doubt dictate our actions or define our future. By taking action, surrounding ourselves with positive influences, and recognizing doubt for what it is, we can move past it. Doubt may never disappear completely, but it doesn't have to stop us from achieving what we're capable of. The power to overcome doubt lies within each of us. We just have to be willing to take the first step, even when we're unsure. Fear is a powerful force, one that has shaped human behavior for as long as we've existed. It's deeply ingrained in our biology, designed to protect us from threats and danger. In ancient times, fear served as an essential survival mechanism. It heightened our senses, made us cautious, and ensured that we stayed out of harm's way. When faced with a predator or a life-threatening situation, fear would kick in, urging us to flee or fight. This fight-or-flight response has helped humanity survive for millennia. But in the modern world, where physical threats are not as common, fear has evolved into something more abstract. Now, it manifests not only in situations of life and death, but in our everyday lives, our ambitions, our relationships, and our personal growth. And while fear is no longer just about physical survival, it still holds immense power over us, often keeping us from reaching our full potential. Fear can take many forms. There's the fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown, and even fear of success. Each of these can paralyze us, keeping us stuck in the same place because the thought of stepping into the unfailure is terrifying. We fear failure because we've been conditioned to believe that failing is the end of the road, a permanent mark of our inadequacy. Society often tells us that failure is something to avoid at all costs, that it's embarrassing and shameful. But what we're not taught is that failure is a natural part of the journey towards success. Every successful person has failed at some point, often multiple times. What separates them from the rest is their ability to keep going despite the fear of failing again. They've learned that failure isn't final, it's a stepping stone, a necessary experience that brings them closer to their goals. But for most of us, the fear of failure looms large, convincing us that it's better not to try at all than to risk the possibility of falling short. The fear of rejection is another powerful force. As social creatures, we crave acceptance and belonging. From a young age, we learn to seek approval from others, our parents, teachers, friends, and society at large. And when we face the possibility of being rejected, whether in our personal relationships at work or in pursuing our dreams, it can feel like a threat to our very identity. We fear that rejection means we're not good enough, that we're unworthy of love, respect, or success. So we play it safe. We don't ask for the promotion we deserve. We don't express our true feelings to the people we care about. And we don't pursue the opportunities that excite us because the possibility of hearing no is too painful. But the reality is that rejection is a part of life. It doesn't define us. It's simply feedback. It's a momentary experience that, like failure, can help us grow if we allow it. Those who achieve great things in life don't do so because they're never rejected. They do so because they don't let the fear of rejection stop them from trying. One of the most paralyzing fears is the fear of the unknown. As human beings, we like certainty. We like to know what's coming next, to have a sense of control over our environment and our future. But life, by its very nature, is unpredictable. We don't know what tomorrow holds, and that uncertainty can be frightening. When we're faced with a decision that could lead us into uncharted territory, fear often steps in to protect us from the discomfort of the unknown. It tells us to stay where we are, to stick with what's familiar, because at least in the familiar we know what to expect, but growth doesn't happen in the familiar. Growth happens when we step outside of our comfort zone, when we embrace the uncertainty and trust that whatever happens, we'll find a way to handle it. The truth is, we can't control the future, and no amount of fear will change that. What we can control is how we respond to the unknown. We can choose to let fear keep us in the same place, or we can choose to move forward. Even if we don't have all the answers. Success, ironically, can also be a source of fear. We might think that once we achieve a certain level of success, the fear will disappear. But for many people, the fear of success can be just as overwhelming as the fear of failure. Success brings with it new expectations, new responsibilities, and the possibility of losing what we've worked so hard to achieve. We fear that we won't be able to sustain our success, that we'll be exposed as frauds, or that we'll lose the things and people we care about along the way. This fear can cause us to self-sabotage, to hold ourselves back from reaching our full potential because the thought of handling success is too daunting. But like failure and rejection, success is a process. It's not something that happens overnight, and it doesn't come with a handbook. Those who succeed learn to navigate the challenges that come with it, one step at a time. They don't let the fear of success prevent them from pursuing their dreams, and they trust that they'll be able to handle whatever comes their way when they get there. Fear is, in many ways, a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's a protective mechanism designed to keep us safe from harm. On the other hand, it can be a prison, keeping us from stepping into our potential, living the life we truly want. The key to overcoming fear isn't to eliminate it completely. That's impossible. Fear is a natural part of being human. The key is to learn how to manage it, how to recognize when it's serving us and when it's holding us back. Fear will always be there, lurking in the background, especially when we're about to do something new or challenging. But we don't have to let it control us. We can acknowledge the fear, thank it for trying to protect us, and then move forward anyway. One of the most effective ways to manage fear is through action. Fear thrives in inaction. The more we sit with our fear, the more it grows, feeding off our uncertainty and hesitation. But when we take action, even if it's just a small step, we begin to dismantle the power that fear holds over us. Action creates momentum, and momentum builds confidence. The more we act, the more we prove to ourselves that we're capable, that we can handle whatever comes our way. Fear doesn't disappear entirely, but it becomes quieter, less dominant, as we focus on the steps we're taking rather than the fear that's trying to hold us back. Another powerful tool in managing fear is perspective. Fear often comes from our perception of a situation rather than the reality of it. We tend to catastrophize, imagining the worst-case scenario and convincing ourselves that it's inevitable. But if we take a step back and look at the situation objectively, we often find that our fears are exaggerated. The worst-case scenario is rarely as bad as we think it will be. And even if it does happen, it's something we can handle. By shifting our perspective, by looking at the situation through a different lens, we can begin to see fear for what it is, a product of our thoughts, not a reflection of reality. Fear also loses its grip when we focus on the present moment. Fear lives in the future. It's fueled by the what-ifs and the unknowns of what's to come. But the present moment is where we have power. In the present, we can take action, make decisions, and choose how we respond to our circumstances. When we bring our attention back to the here and now, fear loses its fuel because it can't exist in the present. The present is where we find clarity, strength, and the ability to move forward despite our fears. Ultimately, fear is a part of life. It's something we all experience, and it's something we'll continue to experience as long as we're growing and evolving. But fear doesn't have to be a barrier. It doesn't have to be a barrier. It doesn't have to stop us from pursuing our dreams or living the life we want. By recognizing fear for what it is, by taking action in spite of it, and by shifting our perspective, we can learn to live with fear rather than be controlled by it. Fear may always be present, but it doesn't have to define us or our choices. We have the power to move forward even in the face of fear, and in doing so we discover our true strength and potential. Indecision is a subtle force, one that often goes unnoticed until its effects have already begun to take hold. It's not as loud as fear, nor as obvious as doubt, but it can be just as paralyzing, if not more so. Indecision keeps us in a state of suspension, trapped between choices, unable to commit to one path or another. At first, it may seem harmless, even practical, to weigh our options, to consider the pros and cons, and to wait for the perfect moment to make a decision. But the danger of indecision is that it often disguises itself as caution, when in reality it's preventing us from moving forward. We convince ourselves that we're being thorough, that we're not rushing into anything, but all the while, opportunities are passing us by, and time continues to move forward without us. One of the most damaging aspects of indecision is that it creates a sense of inertia. The longer we stay in a state of indecision, the harder it becomes to make a decision at all. We get comfortable in the limbo of not choosing, even though that very comfort is what's holding us back. We tell ourselves that we'll decide tomorrow, that we need just a little more information, or that the right choice will reveal itself if we wait long enough, but life doesn't work that way. The world keeps turning, and the opportunities that were once available to us may not be there when we finally decide to act. Indecision creates a false sense of control, as if by not choosing, we're keeping all of our options open. But in reality, indecision is its own choice, a choice to remain stagnant, to let life happen to us rather than taking control of our own destiny. Indecision is often rooted in a fear of making the wrong choice. We worry that if we choose one path, we'll miss out on the opportunities that the other path might have offered. This fear of missing out, or FOMO as it's commonly known, can be paralyzing. It keeps us from fully committing to anything because we're always thinking about what we might be losing by not choosing the other option. But the truth is, there's no such thing as a perfect decision. Every choice comes with trade-offs, with things we might have to give up or sacrifices we might have to make. The key is to understand that no matter which path we choose, we have the power to make the best of it. Life is not about finding the perfect path, it's about creating meaning and success along whichever path we choose. Another reason indecision is so pervasive is that we live in a world filled with endless options. Technology has made it possible to access more information, more opportunities, and more choices than ever before. On the surface, this seems like a good thing, but in reality, it can lead to decision paralysis. When faced with too many options, we can become overwhelmed, unable to process all the information and make a clear decision. We start to second guess ourselves, wondering if there's a better option just around the corner, and as a result, we end up making no decision at all. This is often referred to as the paradox of choice, the idea that having too many options can actually lead to greater dissatisfaction. Instead of empowering us, it leaves us feeling uncertain, stuck. Indecision can also stem from a desire for perfection. We want to make the right choice, the one that will lead to the best possible outcome. But perfection is an illusion. There is no perfect choice, and waiting for everything to align perfectly before making a decision will only lead to more frustration and delay. The pursuit of perfection often leads to procrastination, as we wait for the ideal circumstances that may never come. It's important to recognize that action, even imperfect action, is better than inaction. By making a decision and moving forward, we create momentum, and momentum is what leads to progress. It's better to make a decision, even if it's not perfect, and adjust along the way than to stay stuck in indecision, waiting for the perfect moment that may never arrive. Indecision is not just a mental or emotional struggle, it can also have tangible consequences on our lives. When we fail to make decisions, we miss out on opportunities, both personally and professionally. We may let a job offer slip away because we couldn't decide whether it was the right fit, or we may miss out on a relationship because we were too afraid to commit. Indecision can cause us to miss deadlines, lose out on promotions, and stall our personal growth. The longer we stay indecisive, the more opportunities we lose, and the more we begin to feel stuck in our current situation. This in turn can lead to feelings of frustration, regret, and even resentment toward ourselves for not taking action when we had the chance. Indecision also takes a toll on our mental and emotional well-being. The constant back and forth, the endless weighing of options, and the fear of making the wrong choice can be exhausting. It drains our energy and leaves us feeling mentally fatigued. The longer we remain indecisive, the more anxious and uncertain we become. This anxiety can spill over into other areas of our lives, in our relationships, our work, and our overall sense of happiness and fulfillment. The weight of indecision can feel like a burden that we carry with us everywhere we go, making it difficult to enjoy the present moment or feel at peace with ourselves. But indecision doesn't just affect us, it also affects those around us. When we're indecisive, it can create confusion and frustration for the people in our lives. Whether it's a business partner, a spouse, or a friend, our indecision can leave others feeling uncertain about where we stand and what we want. This can strain relationships and lead to misunderstandings or missed opportunities for collaboration. In a professional setting, indecision can make us appear unreliable or uncommitted, which can harm our reputation and limit our chances for advancement. In our personal lives, it can create tension and distance, as those around us struggle to understand why we can't seem to make a choice or move forward. One of the most important things to recognize about indecision is that it's a habit. The more we practice indecision, the more it becomes ingrained in our behavior. We start to approach every choice, no matter how big or small, with hesitation and uncertainty. We become accustomed to the pattern of overthinking, of delaying decisions, and of waiting for some external force to push us in one direction or another. But just as indecision is a habit, so too is decisiveness. The more we practice making decisions, the more confident we become in our ability to choose and move forward. It's a skill that can be developed, but it requires intentional effort and a willingness to let go of the need for certainty or perfection. One way to break the cycle of indecision is to start small. Instead of waiting for the big decisions in life to practice decisiveness, start with the everyday choices. Whether it's choosing what to have for dinner, what clothes to wear, or which book to read next, practice making quick, confident decisions. The more you do this, the more you'll build the muscle of decisiveness, and over time it will become easier to apply this skill to the larger, more significant decisions in life. It's also helpful to set a time limit for decision making. Give yourself a deadline by which you must make a choice and stick to it. This creates a sense of urgency and forces you to take action, rather than getting stuck in the endless loop of weighing options. Another key to overcoming indecision is learning to trust yourself. Indecision often comes from a lack of self-trust. We doubt our ability to make the right choice, so we avoid making any choice at all. But the truth is, we are capable of making good decisions. We've made countless decisions throughout our lives, some of which have led to great outcomes, and others that have taught us valuable lessons. By reflecting on past decisions and recognizing the times when we've made good choices, we can start to build our confidence in our ability to choose wisely. It's also important to remember that no decision is final. If we make a choice and it doesn't work out the way we hope, we can always course correct. The fear of making the wrong choice is often exaggerated because we forget that we have the power to adapt and adjust as we go. In addition to trusting ourselves, it's important to let go of the need for external validation. Indecision can often be fueled by the desire for approval from others. We want to make the choice that will be accepted or praised by those around us, so we hesitate to make any choice until we're sure it will be met with approval. But seeking validation from others can lead us further into indecision as we try to please everyone and end up pleasing no one, least of all ourselves. To break free from this cycle, we must learn to make decisions based on what we truly want, rather than what we think others want for us. This requires a deep level of self-awareness and honesty, but it's the only way to make decisions that are aligned with our values, our goals, and our true selves. Indecision may feel safe in the moment, but it's a dangerous illusion. It keeps us from moving forward, from growing, and from experiencing all that life has to offer. By recognizing the habits that fuel indecision, by practicing decisiveness, and by trusting ourselves, we can break free from the paralysis of indecision and take control of our lives.